how to ask better questions in order to have meaningful conversations. Now, the question that I get is like, why do I have to have meaningful conversations? Because you might associate them with a lot of effort, right? Like you really have to be involved, you really have to do some things, you have to, ask the good questions in order to have the meaningful conversation. So yes, it's a process and it's a skill in order to actually have meaningful conversations. Now, why is it worth the effort to actually train yourself and practice to ask the better questions, to know how to listen? We are going to also discuss why we don't listen and what can we do about it. And also to be able to ask follow-up questions, right? Based on what the person shares, so we can go deeper into actually exploring or finding the solution. I'm Felicia Boka, leadership coach. I'm working with entrepreneurs from their first $10,000 to actually I have clients who are running multi-million-dollar businesses. So meaningful conversations take more effort, they take more intention and practice, but what they do to us, right? A meaningful conversation is when we walk away from that conversation enriched in some way. Would we created an impact in the other person? We know that we contributed somehow and then we feel good about ourselves. Now, on the other side, you have meaningless conversations, right? Those are the conversations that we have again and again. We ask the same questions. Nothing happened. People are telling you, you never listen to me, you don't care, you don't get me, right? So basically, even with people that we don't know, we have a conversation, we kind of talked about things, but we feel like it doesn't lead anywhere, right? It feels empty, you feel drained, it doesn't have any purpose. It's just, it maybe just exchange facts. And I will share one example and story that I've recently been part of, and it would have been so different, that conversation, only if the people would have asked only one good question that would be more revealing, that will build more connection, that will actually be able to maybe just really build something together in the future as well. So what do I do in the coaching calls, right? I have a limited amount of time where I have to make it worthwhile, the time, and I have to make it worthwhile in terms of outcomes, right? What do they get out of that time spent? And I think that it's like really this skill of asking questions, listen, and know how to ask follow-up questions and know how to lead the conversation so the person gets more clarity, gets more confidence, and therefore feels more empowered to actually take action towards their goals, right? If we would engage with the people around you, if you would engage with your partner, if you engage with your kids, if you would engage with your team, with your colleagues, with your parents, imagine if we would engage in this way, asking them question and have meaningful conversations. What kind of world would we live in? Like how much more ease we would have in our own life, because the people around us are actually, with the questions that they're asking, they are helping us. The questions that we are asking them, we are helping them. They become better person. They become better people. We enrich each other just by changing the conversations that we have through the questions that we ask. So what happens with questions, like our brain is working tirelessly to look for, clues in the environment, is looking for elements that it can collect to provide you with an answer. That's why the questions that we ask in conversation is so important, because mind is going to get engaged, right? Why didn't you succeed? What is wrong with you? Why are you so late? Why are you always messing things up? Imagine those questions, where are they leading the conversation? Towards what? Even if you would know what is wrong with someone, how would that be helpful towards what is actually that you want? Versus if you will ask and you will have conversation about what is it that you want? What have you tried to solve this problem? What did you learn by failing at X, Y, Z? Right? When we ask these questions, they feel like, oh, I've learned something. Oh, what is it that I want really here? Or what is it that I appreciate about myself? Or what I appreciate about the relationship? Okay, so we'll talk about actually a framework of how to ask better questions in conversations in order to make them meaningful. Now, I want to share a story about years back, actually, when the kids were small and my husband and our businesses were like really, we were struggling on all fronts, right? In an apartment with 1 bedroom, 2 kids. It was really, really tough. And our interactions we felt really low in our relationship. There were no positive interactions that much, besides the happy kids that they were like really adding joy and freedom. They are really an inspiration when it comes to like being childlike, right? Like they have a different way in how they show up and look at the world. But we were, sleep deprived. The businesses were like feeling, when are we going to make it? Oh, when are we going to break through? When is this struggle going to stop? And everything was about just pushing through the days. I with the kids and the home and trying to figure myself out, and he with the projects and the money and the businesses and stuff. So we were just barely not going fully under, but we were like always like grasping for air, like mentally, but also like physically, like the energy, right? So one evening he came home, and I could feel that from the moment he entered, that he was so tense. The house was like, the apartment was a mess anyway. The kids went to sleep, and there was still the kitchen messy, toys and clothes, and I just don't want even to recall everything, but you got the picture. Now, usually I would just absorb that tension. I will feel even worse about us, about our situation. We will feel very much, hopeless at that point, like very much drained. And because I already learned about how to ask better questions, I sat down with him and I said like, I want to ask you some questions this evening. Would you be open to it, right? And then we sit on the couch between all the things. And I asked him, like, where do you think our relationship on a scale to 1 to 10, where do you think we are? It definitely felt low, but we were like giving ourselves all, right? So, and then when he said like, I feel like our relationship is at 4. I don't think he said I feel. I think he just said directly, more analytical, like 4. But I felt like so disappointed when he said 4. How come, like we have 2 kids, we are giving ourselves all. How come you think our relationship is a 4? But then I asked a follow-up question, right? What makes it a 4 and not a 1? Because what we do in our life is like we focus on the gap from 4 to 10. Maybe we don't even know what's a 10, but we still feel like there's a big gap. There's so much that is missing. There's so much that we don't have, we don't do, blah, 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 blah. But then we focused on that. And he was surprised. I was like, that's an interesting question. And then he went on, like, I really liked you that, at the beginning of our relationship, I really like how we were excited about our future and how you are ambitious and how the kids are healthy and how they are happy. And that the fact that we still have our apartment that is ours. So there was like positives, adding positives. And then I asked it, and how would a 10 look like? And then he said like, if we continue having conversations like this, I think even right now, I feel like it's getting to an 8. And I said like, okay, so that would be like the progress, right? From 4 to 5, what we will notice as a progress would be like having more conversations about what is already good and about what is exactly that we aspire and we want. And the core thing that we were wanting the most were not the things, were the conversations, were the questions that we were asking each other. That conversation was like really a point where things like changed in our mindset and how we think about ourselves, about our relationship and about life and about business. Everything, like whenever there's like a point where we feel like it's hard and difficult, we just look at what kind of questions are we asking? How do we think about the business? How do we think about the new economy? How do we think about the team? How do we think about ourselves? How do I think about you? Because when we even like, what kind of questions do I operate with? Like what do we engage? Because the mind is going to answer and is going to find evidence of what is wrong, or why are you not supportive, of why you don't do what I expect you to do. But have I communicated that, right? So let's go a little bit even more deeper. So what we've learned until now, and even if you stop the video and you don't watch further from this one, if you think about your relationships, if you think about yourself, to ask these 3 questions. Where am I on a scale to 1 to 10? In the area that you care about, okay, and you say, I'm at 5. Okay, so like, what makes it a 5 and not a 1? And then you gather that. Or it's like, where do I scale Tuesday on a scale to 1 to 10? I don't know, in terms of productivity, in terms of how you like the day, right? And you say, I think it was a 6, right? And then you say, okay, so what were the good things today that happened, right? Like, what were the things? Then you reflect on that and you will discover that there were things that you even already forgot about them. They were really positive, nice things that happened in the day. It happened to me so many times to ask this question, especially with my kids, with my husband, with the people I work with. If I ask them the question like, what did you do today that you feel like you are proud? What was good today? And then it's like, okay, so what does a 10 look like? What would like really the productive, the efficient, the happy day would look like? The better you have clarity on how you want your days to look like, the better you have clarity on how you actually live your life, because you live your life, day by day. And then you have the other questions like, okay, so how would I notice progress? What would be something that would tell me things are moving in the right direction? What do I have to do? What would be like, my focus would be on what? And I will say, okay, if I do that, if I engage in that direction, then I will feel like my days are actually improving, are moving from a 6 to a 7, right? If you stop the video here, thank you so much. You take away this one, journal about it, write about it. The more you think about it, the better your days will start, the better your life is going to start. Anything what goal you're working towards you're going to build clarity. This is exactly the framework and the questions that I ask again and again in my coaching sessions. And this is how people feel more, build more clarity, and they build more confidence, and therefore they take action towards their goal. This is what makes that conversation so meaningful. That's why coaches are paid to just, ask questions and have people really think it through. What is it that they want? What is already working in their life? What are they working towards? And someone on the other side is really listening, is picking up those things and ask follow-up questions. And what else made this day great? And what else made this life great, right? Oh, by the way, I have actually an upcoming book called Good Questions, Great Life. Yay! It's on now in the editing process. I've just have some options for the book cover. I'm so excited. I want to share that with you. So we are going to have like this framework is going to be in a book. It's based actually on the solution-focused coaching framework, and it's expanded from there with the new knowledge that we have from neuroscience, with the knowledge that I've gathered from my own practice and experience. So here is something that I had to shift in order to move from meaningless conversations to meaningful conversation. And that is not about me. It's not about me showing up in a certain way. It's not about me being perfect in order to people to like me. I realize in meaningful conversations, people don't want to like me. So remember this, people don't want to like you. They want to like themselves more when they are with you. And the best way to actually help them to, like you more is to actually being able to really listen and ask good questions. that are making them feel good. Because you have that saying, right, that people don't remember what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. And guess what? Good questions is actually helping them feel really good, right? Imagine asking them about their dreams. I imagine asking them about their past successes and celebrate that with them. Imagine them asking them about, what's their plan? We all want to feel that our life has meaning and has sense, and we want to see that we progress, and we want to see that we move towards a future that is a better future, that it's inspiring, that is possible. So people want to feel heard, they want to feel understood and valued and safe enough to reveal who they actually are. And the way you give them that experience is by asking genuine questions and truly listening to the answers and having really good intentions, right? Like really want to help, you really want to connect. There's a line that I really love and I found it to be really true. Like being heard is so close to being loved that the two are almost indistinguishable. But there's a problem. The real listening doesn't come naturally to us, right? Like we've talked that. Our brain processes words about 4 times faster than people speak, which means your mind is constantly tempted to drift ahead, to predict, right? What am I going to say? Assume, finish my sentences, prepare your response. Research shows that most people listen with only about 25% efficiency. They're not really hearing what the other person is saying. They are waiting for their turn to talk, right? Because the brain already collected the data, right? Collected memories, refresh memories, found similarities, and it's ready to actually put them out there as well in the conversation. Is that a good or a bad thing, right? This is a really good question. Is it like recollecting memories a good thing? Like, for example, I said like at the beginning that I witnessed this conversation recently. It was like we were embarking on a boat from Gili Islands coming to Bali, and there were like these 2 girls behind, and they just started a conversation, right? Where are you from? And the other said like, oh, I'm from the States. And the other one said like, oh, I've been to States, blah, 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 with a scholarship, and I've been there and doing that and that. And it felt like immediately the conversation felt like flat, right? Like there was like this person just talking and talking. And I think what would have changed the dynamic was like, oh, that's interesting. What brought you to Bali or to Indonesia, right? After the girl said, I'm from the States. If it's like, what brought you? What are you excited about Bali? What are your experiences in Indonesia and in Bali? So instead of it just exchanging facts and things that happened a long time ago, you are actually building and pick up the story where you are, right? Like, they made a transformation. I'm interested, how do you experience that transformation? What was really the motivation for you to actually travel so far away? What are you curious to experience and so forth? And that would be more of a revealing conversation, because then they can find similarities not only on the things that already happened, but on the things that they actually enjoy and want to do. And maybe they will say, I like hiking, you like hiking, let's go hiking together. Or I like surfing, you like surfing in Bali, let's go surfing together. And that would probably most likely be a more meaningful conversation. There's actually a study at Harvard that found that asking follow-up questions doubles your likability. It's not about, adding, I'm similar to you, because this is what we want to do, right? Like, I am from the same place. I am similar with you, therefore, I am not a threat. So you justify yourself, you build that safety. You want to try that safety, right, with the other person. I know where you're coming from. I've experienced, I've been there, I'm like you. But basically, what actually builds more likability is actually to ask follow-up questions, right? The difference between a forgettable conversation and one that really stays with you is almost that one question that says, I'm interested in how you experience life. And after you ask that question, you can always follow with what I think is the best coaching question in the world, and what else And what else have you experienced? And what else have you done? And what else do you want? And what else do you plan ahead? So there's one more thing that I want to share with you from the neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett, that the best thing for your nervous system is another human. The worst thing for your nervous system is also another human. So therefore, we pick up clues from the other people and it changes our chemistry. Barrett says that the regions of your brain that process language are the very regions that regulate your body. They guide your heart rate in up and down. They adjust the glucose in your bloodstream. They shift your chemicals that are supporting your immune system. So therefore, the power of words is not like they don't have impact. When someone asks you a hard questions, when someone is saying a harsh thing, your heart rate actually changes. When someone asks you a curious question, your nervous system is calm because it feels more safe, right? And so the people you live with, work with, and love are constantly regulating each other through the words they choose, and almost none of us realize we are doing it. One of the elements of building a culture, if you read the Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, that actually studies successful teams in the world, elite military units, championship sports teams, and thriving companies. And what they found, like the first core thing for a strong company to be successful, for groups, not that the people were the smartest or they had the best strategies. He actually found that before any real collaboration can happen, the nervous system of everyone involved is settled through shared signals and cues, and they all feel safe. They feel like they belong. Because it's belonging cues, subtle gestures, tones, and words that tell another person and through their body actually that they are seen, they are appreciated. So the question here is like, how do you build safety in a relationship? This is actually by interacting with each other and asking the good questions. Asking questions where you show that you care about where they are, what they're dealing with, where they are moving, and you are trying to understand and you try to help, right? You actually build instant likability. You build that safety environment, that safe environment for people to actually be able to express things that are actually leading to progress. If you ask questions and what is wrong with you? Why can't you do it, right? Those questions are actually, you don't feel safe. You have to defend yourself, right? And it starts from home. How do your partner feels? How do your kids feel? How does your team feel? Like, what are the questions that you show up with? The more you create meaningful conversations and people feel safe, then therefore they can use their time and energy to find solutions, to be creative, to try things. Not only that, you can achieve goals at the personal level, but you achieve goals at the company level. You can achieve goals at the family level as well, right? Now I want to teach you the most practical concept in the entire video, that the moment a question is asked, something happens in the brain that neuroscience calls instinctive elaboration. The mind immediately stops everything else and begins searching for an answer. It cannot help itself without the awareness, like, is this question helpful or not, right? So basically, if we don't question the question, then therefore we are going to have bad answers just because we didn't check in what kind of questions are we working hard to answer to. What a kind of question are we spend our time and energy to find an answer to. Because if you ask, why did you do that? What were you thinking? Isn't that a little bit unrealistic? This don't create clarity. They put people against the wall. Their brain shifts into protection mode. The person across from you stops thinking about possibilities and starts looking for, justifications. Thriving questions, that's one that are actually creating meaningful conversations, are like, what does success look like for you? What's one small win you've had recently? What would you want to happen? This expands your mind. This is like your body feels like open and creative. Invites the person to remember that they have resources, that they have agency, that they have dreams that they want to fulfill. You can really feel the shift in the energy of people when you ask this question. Now, every single day we are pulled by this surviving type of questions. Most of the time we are by default leaning into having meaningless conversations because they don't lead anywhere. There are no outcomes, there are no insights, there are just, conversations that we have again and again, and there is no elements of progress out of it because we engage in the conversations through questions that are looping, right? Because if I ask you what are your weaknesses and you tell me what are your weaknesses, then what do? Are you going to spend the entire life working on your weaknesses? Or I can ask you what are your strengths, and then what I'm asking you, what do you want to create, with all this mix of strengths? You can take action and move things forward with your skills, with your curiosity, with your resources, with what are already your strengths. I hope I brought some clarity to you on how to engage with yourself, because the most important conversation in all the conversation is the conversations that you have with yourself. What kind of questions do you ask yourself when you feel that you are drifting, that you're overthinking, that you feel anxious? Just question, what kind of questions do I ask myself? What is the story that these questions are building? Are these questions helpful? And then you can expand the conversations towards people around you, because now if you know to ask yourself better questions, then you can ask other people better questions, because you know the impact it does, how it changes your chemistry in the end. Your nervous system feels differently, how you navigate the world is different, how you navigate your days is uplifted, right? Okay, so this was it, the difference between meaningful conversations and meaningless conversations, and how to ask better questions. I'm on this mission to actually help you ask better questions so you can have a better conversation with yourself. Therefore, you can have better conversation with the people around you. And imagine a world where we ask each other good questions. They don't have to be spectacular, right? But they can be good questions that your mind gets busy and that's creative, and you wake up and you have insights and you feel more inspired and more clear towards doing the things that you want to do. So thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you're interested in this kind of things, and if you want to improve your life by improving your questions. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll be very happy to read them. I read them. I want to keep this conversation going as well. Okay, thumbs up. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.